so much to Colleen for coming to join us and talk about this topic, which I thought was very apropos because it's finally getting warm enough that I can go out in my garage again, but that means I have to confront how much stuff is in my garage. So Colleen is going to help us with that. All right, go ahead and take it away.
I sure am. Yeah, I'm feeling like the need to go out and organize my garage, but like I said before, every time I do, it starts snowing. So like, then I put my coat back on and come back in the house. Hello there. So my name is Colleen Klimczak. I am a certified professional organizer. I own Peace of Mind Professional Organizing LLC. I've been in business 20 years in June. I have been here before. I presented bullet journaling, I think. Well, okay, pre-COVID, so at least 3 years, right? And that's a productivity tool. But I do own my organizing business. I do virtual and in-person organizing. I do virtual and in-person organizational coaching. And I do presentations for fine folks like yourself. So thank you for having me here. I will try to make our next hour or so together as useful as possible. I really am talking about big projects this evening, but I really also did mean it when I said that what we're going to talk through, the process that we're going to talk through can be for big projects, but it can also be for, you know, a closet or a junk drawer. It can be, you know, little, or it can be the whole big room. We will talk about big projects because big projects are a different animal, not just because they're overwhelming because they're so large, but very often when we're organizing big spaces, they have taken on the stuff of all the other places in our house, right? They become, you know, basement or attic or garage becomes a dumping ground. The rest of the house looks okay. And then you open up those scary places and go, oh, that's where it all went. Oh, gee, look at that. So we will talk about that from both sides. So like I said, just general organizing, but also the challenges and then strategies that we can use with those bigger projects. So first screen is how to get in touch with me. That's a QR code for my newsletter. I do have a newsletter that I send out every Tuesday. Tomorrow's newsletter is What Are You Afraid Of? And also a plug for getting out and voting. I am an elected member. I'm an Evergreen Park Elementary School District 124 board member. So we have new board members that will be being elected tomorrow. So I'll plug for that as well. So like I said, many ways to get in touch with me. The handout that you have, all of my contact information is up in the corner. If you call me, I won't answer. It's nothing personal, but if I don't know the number, you are spam to me. So emailing is great. Texting is great. If you need to reach out, please do. But those are the best channels. So, and I have a podcast. A new episode will drop tomorrow, right? Episode number 20. It's ridiculously familiar or similar to the newsletter that goes out, but some people like to read and some people like to listen. And so I try to do it from both sides. So there you go. So I mentioned that big spaces like garages and attics and basements are tougher. And why? Why are bigger projects, bigger spaces tougher? Mainly because, again, they become a catch-all, right? So when in doubt, just put it in the garage, you know, we'll just tuck it out there. The rest of the house will look okay. And then, you know, April comes and you look at it and go, oh my heavens, what have we been doing all winter? Wow, it all ended up here. Everyone also uses the space. So if you have 4 or 5 people living in your house, it's very likely that they all come in through the garage. Or everybody either stores, you know, recreational things or bikes or cars or whatever. So everyone tends to use those bigger spaces as well. When I do have people living in my house, they spend a lot of time in my basement. That's where the gaming is. That's where the big television is. And that's cool. But if I was going to go down there, it's a much bigger space and everyone uses it. So that is a good thing, but it also means that it's got, you know, 20 different purposes. And when we end up with a big space that has 20 different purposes, we also end up with a space that has 20 times the stuff, right? So, especially when one of those purposes might even just be general storage. So it also becomes a holding place for undecided items. There's a woman who is considered the matriarch of the organizing profession. Her name is Barbara Hemphill. You probably have books by Barbara Hemphill here as well. And she says clutter is unmade decisions. When in doubt, I'll just put this here for a minute. No, you're not. You're going to put that there for a month and a half. Like we all are, and that's okay. But then it comes time where, okay, it's time to make the decisions, right? We need to move these things along and get them moving. And we need to reclaim the space. And so we just suspend those decisions. We delay them, but we don't eliminate them. So there comes a point at some point that we actually have to make those decisions. The volume is different. Everything's just bigger in a garage, right? Or an attic or a basement. It's just bigger. Truly some of those spaces don't get the respect that they deserve. They do a lot of work for us and with us. And occasionally, once in a while, it's nice to give them a little love, like spring and fall, right? So it's time to kind of get those things squared away. This is going to be controversial. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Primary goal, primary purpose for a garage.
Car.
Supposed to be car storage. There is no judgment. I don't want to see a show of hands. I don't want to know. I don't. But that's the truth, right? If it's possible. I am married to an accountant, and he has all kinds of wonderful strengths. But it drives me crazy because our cars are our second largest investment typically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we take better care of our clutter than we do of our second biggest investments, that pains his accounting heart. And I gotta agree, right? So mine's not even attached, but I still would rather not have to scrape snow and frost and all that kind of stuff off of it. So really, it's April now. Okay. So I usually give this class in the spring and in the fall, bless you, because very often in the fall, we're like, okay, this is the year that we're not parking outside anymore. I'm sure I could say, sorry, that was Siri. He sometimes contributes. My arms tend to flail a lot. And it's an Australian guy, the voice. If anybody's going to tell me how to drive, I want it to be in a cool voice. So he's got an Australian accent. My shtick used to be, I know where all of you were on February 2nd, 2011. You were in your houses because there was a blizzard in the Chicago area on February 2nd, 2011. So the next question is, where were your cars?
Inside.
Good. Okay, we're good. All right, my job is done. Okay, we're good. But that's the kind of thing we need to know, right? Like, let's take better care of our stuff, okay, or our cars and our investments. And so let's clean out those bigger spaces so we can use them for the storage that's gonna make you happy. Very often when we're starting these projects, it's very helpful to find your why. I don't know what your why will be. Here we go. Sorry. Okay. So what is motivating you? I mentioned that I usually give this class in the spring and in the fall. In the fall, many times it's let's get things squared away before cold weather hits. Let's clear out the garage so we can park inside. Let's clear out the basement so we have someplace to put the Christmas decorations when we decide to bring them out, or we want to have people over and we want to, make that space. So what's motivating you? And you don't have to tell me. Honestly, I don't want to know right now. Okay. But you know that for yourself. Okay. So I want to organize my garage. It's gotten a little out of hand over the winter. And my 23-year-old is coming home for his birthday this weekend. He will be 23 on Monday. And he may or may not be bringing a bunch of friends. Don't know when I'll find that out, but that's how this happens. And that's okay. But I would love to get my patio furniture out. Because if they wanted to have a fire with the fire pit in the backyard and the weather was accommodating, that would be fun. And that is a great why, because it would make everybody happy. It would mean that it was done the first week of April. And it's a motivator, right? Like, oh, okay, it's finite. It gives me an end date. Okay. And I can probably draft some people in my house to help me this weekend if it's nice. Like, okay, that's a why. I like that. Sometimes we're cleaning out our garages and our big spaces because they are full of things that we want to sell, move along, donate, whatever that might be. So sometimes it's a garage sale that's motivating us, or I have a client who sells a lot of things on eBay. Don't ask me that, that's a different class. I have no idea how to do that, but she does. But so what is your why? And I don't need to know, but you do. And if that is helpful to you, then by all means, that could be a motivator, right? So sometimes we would like some time so we don't have to hassle with our stuff anymore. So we're gonna spend a couple hours, get those projects done so we can enjoy time elsewhere. Maybe we want to make some money off this project. That's great too. Maybe we just want to reclaim our space. Maybe we want to find something. We know it's out there somewhere. Oh, where is that thing? Whatever that is. So, very often when we're looking at garages, it can be a direct way to make money in your garage, right? So sell what you have, get ready for a garage sale. That's great. But there's also indirect ways to make money from cleaning out your garage. For example, stop paying for storage units. Okay. Like I have clients who have storage units and, but they also have a garage that could be maybe one bay. They could clear out things from the storage unit and then not have to pay for that as well. Okay. That really matters. And we want to be able to take better care of our stuff and clear out the clutter. And we're going to talk about the difference between stuff and clutter in just a second. And then again, protecting our cars and large investments in our garage. Okay, so what is clutter? What makes one pile of things in your basement, attic, garage clutter, and one pile of things not clutter? And it's not just that that's mine, and so it's not clutter, and that's yours, and so it is clutter. Okay, that is not the definition. Mine and yours is not it. So clutter is anything we don't need, use, or love, and if it's not loving us back anymore. Okay, so clutter is something that you look at it and you go, well, I haven't used this, don't really need it, haven't been looking for it. Don't need it, haven't used it. I am no longer attached to it, or I never was attached to it, or I'm not even sure how it got here and who it belongs to. That happens in garages and attics and basements. Okay, so if it's something that you're looking at it, do you know the 11s? Do you see the 11s?
Oh,
If you're looking at something and you have the 11s because you do not need it, you don't need it, use it, love it, and you're not sure how it got there, it's probably clutter. The problem too with clutter is that in addition to being annoying and in the way, it covers up the stuff that we do need and we do use and we do love. And so if there's a big pile of clutter, we're going to skip out of our garage for a minute. Okay, this is now your dining room table. Okay. And somewhere in the pile of clutter on your dining room table, there is also the ComEd bill, and it's in red writing. You know what it means when it's in red writing, right? They're cranky now and you're in trouble. And it's in the pile somewhere, but you don't know where. Okay. That's the other side of clutter. So clutter in and of itself is irritating, but also now it's covering up the stuff that you do need and you do use and you do love. And so what we're going to do in the next 45 minutes is talk about how to clear out the clutter, get back to a much more reasonable amount to actually have to organize and take care of, and then how to maintain it. All right. So that's where I'm headed. Does that work? Okay. I hope you said yes. If you said no, we would be in big trouble. So thank you for playing along. So the real big thing with clutter and with getting organized is, can you find what you need when you need it? So I teach classes, it's called NAPO in the schools, to 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. They're awesome. It's hilarious. And the whole point of me going in and working with these students for about an hour is not, this is how we clean our rooms and this is how you get your homework done, because the quickest way to lose the interest of 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders is to tell them to clean their room and do their homework. The point is, can they find what they need when they need it? And aren't we all kind of looking for that? Right?
Yeah.
So even if what we're looking for is space, it doesn't have to be an item. Maybe we're just looking for some calm or some room to park the car that has been out in front or something like that. So can we find what we need when we need it is where we're going. That's the goal. All right. So getting started, with your organizing project, I don't care which project it is, right? What I want you to do is I want you to grab a clipboard. Because everybody feels more empowered. Holding a clipboard. I look taller, don't I? Right? Right? Uh-huh. Okay, Julie McCoy, Cruise Director.
Oh,
Okay, all right, I'm just saying, I always thought that was the coolest job. Julie McCoy, Cruise Director, all right, so, you're never gonna forget the clipboard now, are you? There's a method to my madness. So what I want you to do is I want you to grab a clipboard, honestly, it doesn't have to be a clipboard, it could be a notebook. I am a tech girl, when I'm in my clients' houses, I usually have my phone or my iPad with me, and I'm making notes on there as we go along, okay? So clipboards are great. Again, I love a good clipboard. I've got two with me. But what we need to do is we need to craft a plan. The quickest way to derail our organizing projects is to first, not start with a plan. And second, buy the containers before you actually know what you need. Don't do that either, okay? You heard it here first. Do not go out and buy containers before you get started, because you don't know what you need yet, and then you end up with container clutter. Don't do it. Y'all heard it here, okay? You're all my witnesses. So we want to start with a plan, and we don't want to go buying containers. So like I said, what we need to do is we need to grab a clipboard. And actually I grabbed this clipboard. This clipboard is for my newsletter. I'm going to pass it around, and anybody watching online, if you drop over to Colleen at peaceofmindpo.com or just at my website at peaceofmindpo.com, you're welcome to subscribe. Now, here's the thing. I know none of you. If you don't sign up, I will never know the difference. Okay, so only do it if you actually want to. But I try to keep it value added. So there you go. Okay, passing it around. There you go. No pressure, I promise. I don't want to contribute to email clutter any more than I do any other kind of clutter. So we're good. So I told you I have two clipboards though. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to walk around your house with a clipboard. Or maybe it really is just that one big project area. Cool, that's awesome. Good for you. Very few people only have one project. So again, good for you. What we want to do is we want to start to draft our plan. We want to walk around either the area that we're working in, or if it was the whole house, right? There was the whole house. I want you to start to write down where you'd like to be in a space, where you are now, and what you think some of the steps are that might get you from here to there, right? So I did this with my now 18-year-old son. And he wanted to update the paint in his room. It turns out that the bold avocado that 10-year-old John chose no longer worked for 16-year-old John, which I think showed good taste because it was really obnoxious. But he wanted a platform bed for storage, and he wanted to do a couple other things. And I said, well, that's great. We got to figure out what the plan is and what our steps are, okay? And he's really good about that. And so we did that. And then there was also some things that I benefited from because there were still bins of toys under his bed and things like that, which also had to go. Oh, well, in the interest of the project. And so, that cleared out too. But if we hadn't started by writing everything down, we might not have been able to see where some of the some of the steps might be able to be taken. If you've got more than one project, very often we've got similar things that we need to do in multiple areas. So let's say that you are going to work on the big three: attic, basement, and garage. Okay. Whew, all right. But you write down those tasks and you realize that it's one call to the electrician or one trip to Home Depot. Right. So once we start to craft the plan, we can kind of see where we can make those economies. So we can do that. We can start to realize where there might be, multiple tasks taken care of with one errand or one trip or one service, etc. Okay. What we can also do after we've started to craft our plan is we can pick one place to start. One, do not decide that this is the weekend you're gonna do all the closets and you take apart every closet in your house. Because you will be cursing my name by Saturday afternoon, okay? One project at a time. Within reason, right? So there might be okay, well, I'm almost done with that one. I just need to do a couple more steps and that's not until next week. So I'm okay with starting on the next closet, but do not take everything all apart at the same time. Just saying, okay. But like I said, what we really want to do is we want to grab our clipboard. We want to write down those different tasks. If you want to pretend that you're walking around your house with me, that's fine. You might want to explain it to your family members before you start talking to yourself. I'm just saying. You can also pretend your favorite HGTV host is with you. So that's always kind of fun, is to be jotting that down. And this is actually a working project that I did with a client family. I was doing a downsize with them and it was a whole house and they were moving from 2,500 square foot to about 900 square foot. And so we had to come up with very specific steps and what needed to go and what was going to stay and what was going to move with them and what needed to go to storage and that kind of stuff. So it was a really big project, but even the organizer uses a clipboard because I got to tell you, it helps to collect those ideas. I really do just love holding a good clipboard too. So I'm going to put this down. Okay. But like I said, what we really need to do is start with that plan. And that's the best thing. Other things that we can do as we start with our plan, it can help us to set a date, maybe make an appointment with services. And by services, it could be a dumpster. It could be oh, you're coming to my neighborhood to pick up donations on next Tuesday? Why, yes, that would be great. Please come. Or maybe it's family members, or you're bartering with a friend. You'll do her garage with her this weekend and she'll do your garage, like that, then you'll swap services. Sometimes it's just more fun to do it with a friend. But that all is also bigger project specific. Like you don't always need to have a dumpster or that donation pickup or things like that, except when it is these big spaces, you kind of need that forward planning. You need to plan a little bit ahead. And then very often there are easy things that are already slated to leave. I worked with a client early on in my business and she's like, oh my gosh, my garage is a hot mess. It's going to take you 6 hours. I've watched the shows like that. I was like, all right. Every box in her garage was empty. It took up so much space and they were all empty. All I did was break down the boxes and like broke the tape. Like that was it. And I was like, okay, an hour and a half, I'm done. Like that was it. So there's often very easy things that could go. All right. I've had 3 conversations in the last 2 days about, but it's a really good box. It's a really good box. I know, but it can also be stored flat. It's okay. Here's some tape for when I leave, okay? And it'll be a good box again, but right now it's in the way. So there are often things that can leave, all right? There's easy items. Maybe it's donations, maybe it's cardboard or things like that. Maybe it's recycling. You need to go. Okay. I got a text. Oh, okay. Not a problem. Be comfortable. If anybody wants to stand up and move around, I'll be moving around the whole time. So just be comfortable. We're good. But very often there are easy things. Very often there's already a pile of things in one of those big spaces that is already designated to leave. Maybe it needs to be donated. Maybe it needs to be dropped off at a friend's house. So often the first thing that I ask you to do, even before I get there, is to make the easy stuff disappear. Okay. And then we're already doing better. It's already looking better. And it gets us motivated. Like, oh, that was 10 minutes and look, it's better already. Let's keep going. Right. So this is a good thing. So like I said, purge those easy items that are already slated to leave and enlist aid. So whether it's, promise of beer and pizza later, that's okay. Sometimes we need to do big projects with other people. And also if you are storing things for other people, now's the time to make the call. And again, I say this, and I have things for my grown children still living in my house, but I know why. And so that's okay. But I worked with a client, actually it was a person at one of my classes very early on, and she still had her ex-brother-in-law's car in the garage, which is why it was an ex-brother-in-law. It's because there was a car in the garage that was like, yeah, and it was still there like 10 or 15 years later. Like, oh, no. Okay, that's it. And I know that me saying that is really easy to say. Like, okay, yeah, just make family members do things. That's not what I'm saying. But if you are trying to work towards a goal, for example, my client who was downsizing, you know, there was definitely, and all the family was on board. It was really, really great. Everybody was working towards the same goal. But if you're trying to downsize or do a remodel or something like that, you know, there needs to be a timeline for stuff to leave. Yeah. So I taught downsizing last week. And I mentioned that I've never respected my mother-in-law more than when she came over with a box of things for my husband when they were downsizing and handed it to him and left. Like, I have never, that's awesome. But she needed to make that happen, right? Like that was the idea, and there was a deadline and things like that. So it worked. And he would never have done that on purpose. He didn't know it was still in the attic. So I got to give him some credit. As you're getting started, you need to gather your supplies. I always carry garbage bags with me, multiple colors. I'll get to that in a minute. Recycling bags, clipboard and a pen, Sharpie markers and Post-it notes. Labels never stick. Labels never stick to containers. Okay. So my favorite thing is a Sharpie marker, a Post-it note, and clear packing tape. So if you are trying to get a label to stick, it's not going to without packing tape. And the great thing about that is if you have a container and you want to change your mind on what's in it, you can just rip the packing tape off. It comes off in one piece, and then you do it again with whatever you want to rename your container. Okay. So yeah, I always carry that stuff with me all the time. Plastic ties, maybe small containers or baggies, you know, for the small stuff. Cleaning supplies, if you're going to be needing to wipe stuff down. And I'm saying all of this because you and I both, we all know that it's really easy to get distracted. And sometimes we're just looking for a reason to not be in the garage anymore. We are, it's okay. And so when we start out with all of our supplies, then we aren't going to be as likely to disappear to find some Clorox wipes, and then we're gone for an hour. Okay. So it keeps us focused and it keeps us linked to the space. And we have all that stuff with us. Also safety precautions, especially in the garage. There's a lot of dangerous things in the garage. I have a wall next to my car that's called the swinging wall of doom. I probably shouldn't call it that, but it was funny to me. And so it's where all of our yard implements are hung up on the pegboard, and it's a great place for it. But like, honestly, if I by accident like brushed up against and moved them all, I would impale myself or my car. So it's not nearly that dangerous, but you get my point. So there are dangerous things often in those bigger spaces. So please do not try to tackle this project in flip-flops, right? Wear closed-toed shoes, socks, work gloves, plastic gloves, even a mask. Sometimes organizing is very dusty work. Okay, so just think of these things. If it is warm weather, you might need bug repellent, hats, etc. And by all means, take the fragile things out of the space first. Because if it is anybody other than just yourself, they run the risk of bumping into or knocking over or fill in the blank here. And so if there's anything in there that you're like, no, that's my grandmother's crystal whatever in the garage, but no, like just remove that because it will get toppled and we don't want that to happen. Okay. All right. So where to begin? You're like, she's been talking for an hour, half an hour, and we're just beginning, but we had to lay the groundwork. So where to begin? Any project can overwhelm. I understand that, but we do have a process that we'll go through, and we do pick that one project. So we aren't trying to do everything all at once. Okay. And so sometimes we really do just need to start. This is not in the handout, but just remember this, that very often, always, not even very often, always, big projects are a series of small projects. So if the big project is overwhelming, don't look at it like a big project. Look at it like this pile of things right here is enough for today, if I'm not gonna get a whole day of this. And I'm gonna tackle this right here in front of me, and if I happen to have time to do more, that's great, but otherwise I'm just gonna stick with this project. You can do anything in small manageable bites, right? How do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. I always feel bad about the elephant, but you get the point. So, just start, honestly. So even if it's just outlining your plan or thinking about the space, that's still progress because it's something you didn't do for the project yesterday, okay? The other thing that we want to do, granted, we're talking about bigger projects, but if we really did have to decide between garage, attic, and basement, we would pick the one that's causing the most pain, or the place that we would have the most to gain. So if it's fall and you really want to get that car into the garage this winter, then by all means start with the garage, right? If attic is almost always last. Been up there for 20 years. Still gonna be up there. There's not a lot up there that's like for today. You know what I mean? So basement and garage are probably have more current things in it. I'm not saying you're off the hook with the attic, okay? Just saying it's not usually first. And then once we start the project, we want to work through the project in the same way, kind of the same way that we don't want to disappear to go find supplies for an hour. Butterflies are beautiful, but they're not very good at organizing. So we don't want to be a butterfly. You guys know what I mean? You float from this pile, and then you float to this pile, and then you've gotten nothing accomplished. And you're like, I've been out here for 4 hours. What's going on here, right? So what we want to do is like pick a spot either to the left or to the right. Usually it's just at a door. It's arbitrary. It's arbitrary. But we just need to pick a spot and then kind of steadily go from there. Okay, because we don't want to be butterflies. Don't let me crush your phone. You want to be a butterfly, go for it, but don't do it while you're organizing your garage. There you go. Other things that we can do is assigning a destination before we purge. Okay, and we're going to get to purging in a minute. So I have a link. I don't know if it's actually on. I know it's on here. I don't know if it's on there. So on my website, right? So peaceofmindpo.com. If you go to the blog tab, and there is there's a little search bar under the blog tab, and it says just type in resources. And I have a page of organizing and recycling resources. There are people out there that want your stuff, either selling it on consignment or donating it. Very often we know that we want to do the right thing, but we don't know where the stuff is. What county are we in? DuPage. Will County is having a great recycling event this weekend. That doesn't help anything. Sorry, but I just okay there. Oh yeah. Okay, we got a winner. But the other point of that is every place is having e-waste events right now, recycling events. This is a great time. So just read your local, advertisements or your local Facebook page or whatever. There's all sorts of resources right now for e-waste, gardening, swapping seeds, lots of supplies, all kinds of things out there right now. So this is a great time for those resources. Okay. Cool. All right. So the actual process I have been blathering on. So I'm going to skip my buddy, Barry Insecure. Okay. I'm going to stick with what I know, and that's Julie Morgenstern. So, like I said, there are probably books here in the library by Julie Morgenstern. She's great. But she has a 5-step organizing process, which spells space, which makes it clever and memorable. So we'll take it. But the process is we sort what we have, we purge what can go, we assign a home to what's left, we containerize it, and we equalize it. Okay, so that's the process. And we can do that in big or we can do that in small. It doesn't matter, right? It's the same process over and over and over again, which makes it really easy to remember. Okay, so like I said, first things first is we sort. Now, what does that mean? So depending on where we are, depends on how we sort. If we are in the garage, we may start with all of the yard implements go over here. Anything related to snow goes over here. Anything related to biking or sports or, I don't know, automotive care, whatever. So we've got categories, right? If we're in the basement, maybe your categories are completely different, and attic different again, and that's okay. It's really just identifying what your categories should be in the space that you're working in, okay? So sorting is actually the easiest part. It's also a very long process sometimes. And what we also want to do is set ourselves up to succeed. So very often when we are organizing, our stuff is already like, we already know that there's going to be piles of things to go either elsewhere in the home or gone completely. So very often by the door, I have 2 or 3 boxes, right? And so there is a donate pile, there's a recycling pile, there's just plain old garbage or rubbish. Isn't that a fun word? Rubbish. I taught a 5-year-old how to say rubbish. He was an organizing client's grandson, so we were having a gay old time finding mailing label stickers and sticking them on his shirt. It was hilarious. But rubbish. So we have, and we usually have a pile of things that actually belong somewhere else in the house, right? Now, what did I not say? You do not deliver them just yet. Stay here, right? So we want that pile by the door to deliver when we've worked on things for a little bit. Do not just go herring off and drop things off around your home, because again, then we're butterflying and we don't want to be butterflies. So we want to get out those boxes and bags and we want to label them and we want to get to work, and we don't want to leave until our session is over. Now, I don't care how long your session is. I get paid by the hour. Even I don't want to do more than 2 or 3 hours at a time. Did you hear me?
2 or 3 hours at a time.
At the most, 2 or 3 hours at a time, because your brain will start to fog over and your eyes will start to water, and no one wants to make decisions for more than 2 or 3 hours. It's exhausting. If it was easy, it would be done already. Okay. So just bear that in mind. Do not say, this is the weekend I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do that garage until it's done, because it's exhausting, right? And we need to consider that. So we might be in a couple different sessions. You might need to take a break for lunch or something like that. So just keep that in mind. We don't want, this is not a, this is a marathon. Like, you don't want to do a sprint for 6 hours, because that's not sustainable, right? So just keep that in mind. So we don't want to leave until the project is done, for at least for today, but we also want to maybe put an end time, right? So set a timer for half an hour or an hour or 2 hours, and know that you aren't going to be trapped here until the work is absolutely complete. Maybe it's just a session for today. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So we sort what we got. We talked about categories in a garage, categories in your basement, all that. Depends on what we're working on. So after we have sorted what we have, then we purge. What did I just say? If it was easy, it would be done already. Purge. I know. Purging is hard too. Okay. So we go back to that original question. Do I need it? Do I use it? Do I love it? Okay. And I'm going to ask you much more specific questions as tools for you. But I also want to remind us that there's opportunity costs for just in case. Oh, I'm going to keep this for just in case. Just in case, just in case, just in case. Poor Justin, he gets in so much trouble. But just in case is not helpful after a certain point, okay? And anytime we say yes to one thing, we are using that space for that one thing, which means we can't necessarily use it for anything else. We cannot keep clutter in our garage and also cars unless we have a big enough garage and there's not that much clutter, okay? So we really need to decide what the opportunity costs that we're willing to pay are, okay? What I also want us to remember is filing is for retrieval, not for storage. I'm going to say that like 5 more times. When we put things away, we put them away because we expect to use them again. Filing is for retrieval, not for storage. Okay, so if you have things in your garage that you never, ever plan on using again, they don't belong in your garage. Does anybody here have unlimited space? Me either, right? So we need to be specific about what we choose to keep. And again, filing is for retrieval. So we put things away because we expect to pull them out again. Now, what that tells us is we shouldn't be storing anything just for the purpose of storage, right? And we might want to group common things together, which takes us back to categories, right? So if I have all the, yard maintenance things together, it's because I'm going to use them all at the same time. And that season's actually coming up, So, and I can't wait to put away the snow things, darn it. I just can't wait. But we want to think about that. And then the 80/20 rule tells us that 80% of what we need is in 20% of what we have. Say that a couple more times too. Really, it boils down to you use about a fifth of your stuff all the time. And you use 4/5 of your stuff not nearly as often. So what we really want to do is focus on the 20%, right? And recognize that some of the 80% that we don't use as often is probably going to go. Either go away from where we're working or go away completely. Okay, so purge criteria, questions that you can ask yourself as you go along. These are objective questions. More objective. They're not perfectly objective, but they're more objective. We take some of the emotion out of things. The first question is the question of duplicates. How many of certain things do we really need? Wow, I don't usually get a laugh about that one, but okay, I'll take it. It happens. It happens.
You know why?
Tell me.
I have to tell you guys, when my husband was alive and we always shopped and we find something we really like, we buy 3 of them.
Sure.
We have 3 children and we want to give one to each of the kids. And most of that stuff's still in the basement.
Okay.
Didn't give anything
And
away.
and they're like, thanks, but we're good. We've got what we need.
Don't want it.
No, I know you can't. That's the downsizing class. We can't make anybody want anything. We can't. Like it doesn't work that way. But thank you for your honesty. What's that?
It's all good.
It's a good box. No, I know it is, right? It was on sale. Think of how much money we have spent on things that were on sale. So the question of duplicates, like I said, I don't usually get a laugh out of that one. So, but we'll take it. So when we're out in the garage, how many of certain things do we really need? So I mentioned I had 3 boys. There was at one point where we had more shovels, snow shovels, than we had people. Like, how did this happen? And I want to say somebody else downsized and we were the recipient of that. And that's
Shovels.
fabulous. But now I have more shovels than we have hands, right? So you got to ask that question. But my son bought a house. So
Maybe he needs.
look, don't you need a shovel, honey? So the question is, how many of certain things do we need? And yes, there are some things that we do need duplicates of. Okay. Every room in my house seems to need scissors and a hammer. I don't know why, it just seems to happen. Garbage bag, can. Like there are some things that we need duplicates of. I do need more than one snow shovel. I really do, because we do like the folks next door and there's the really heavy one and then there's the light ones that we put in the car when we travel. And so I get it, but did we need like 7 in a household of 5? No, right? So I don't know the answer for you. It depends on what we're looking at, but that is a very valid question to ask yourself. How many of certain things do I really need? Okay. Same goes for rakes in the garage or bike helmets, or I'm trying to think of what else we have duplicates of. But it's a very reasonable question to ask. So if this was a regular clutter class, I would do mug math. How many people drink coffee in your house? How many cups of coffee a day? How often does she run the dishwasher? And of course I have more than 4 mugs, but do I have 40? No. What, have I ever had 40 people drinking coffee at my house at the same time? No. Will I ever have 7 people shoveling? I don't even have a driveway. Chicago narrow lot. I have an alley. I don't even have a driveway. So the questions you can ask yourself, right? So how many of certain things do we really need? Okay. Are they all in good shape? Would they be better served in somebody else's hands? Okay, is there stuff that I could sell? It's still in perfectly good shape because we never passed it on to our family members. Okay, maybe there's a market for it out there. Duplicates, right? I can't answer that one for you, but it's a question you can ask yourself. The next question is the question of usefulness. How often do I actually use this item? We were at a concert last night with a woman who had just driven in. We were in Indiana. She had just driven in from North Carolina. She did a show in North Carolina on Saturday. And she said that there was a loud noise outside the venue that she was performing at the other day. And to her, it sounded like a snowplow. She was in North Carolina. No one had any idea what she was talking about. No idea, right? So if you lived in North Carolina and you had a snowplow, usefulness, right? If an item is never going to be your first or second or third or fifth or 10th choice, do you really need to keep it, right? So if you have 5 other things that do similar jobs, do we really need to keep 6 through 10? Okay. And if the answer is no, then that can go. Okay. So usefulness, you will, certain items, we just won't use them. And so those are cluttered and probably need to go. The third criteria is the question of exceptions. Now, exceptions are seasonal items, which the garage and attic and basement often have seasonal items, right? It ends up there because it's not the right season. Okay. So we know that. So exceptions happen a lot in those areas. My usual example of exceptions is I live on the south side. I'm not actually from the south side, but I live on the south side. And my name is Colleen. I have an Irish sweater. I have one Irish sweater. What day of the year do I wear my one Irish sweater? Hello. Yes. Now, I love my Irish sweater, but it is hot. It is itchy. It's a whole lot of things. And I wear it because it's the tradition, but I only wear it one day a year. And I don't wear it any of the other days because it's hot and it's itchy and all those other reasons. So that is an exception. Off-season sporting goods. I have 3 sons. So it was always some sports season in my house, right? She is nodding sagely. Always some sports.
Well.
Always some sports season. So, but if it was soccer season and it wasn't baseball season, I didn't want to find baseball stuff floating around my house. If it was baseball season, but not soccer season, I didn't want to find shin guards. I didn't want to find jerseys. I didn't want to find baseball or soccer socks, right? So because we didn't have a big house and I didn't want all the seasons out at the same time, right? I just didn't. So we can keep exceptions, but we might not need to have all of them out. It's not all seasons all the time. All right. So, and seasons, like I said, seasons can be sports seasons. They can be, weather seasons. They can be lots of things, but we also can recognize that we don't need every item every day, right? There are seasons to our stuff. And that is what exceptions are. So yes, you can keep them. I have not told you to get rid of anything yet. I am trying to guide you to your own decisions on what to get rid of, right? So exceptions, like I said, yes, we can keep them, but do we need to be stumbling across, December decorations right now? No, okay. So yes, they can stay, but maybe those are the things that go up in the rafters. Or
in the exceptions category,
yes.
Are there also sentimental exceptions?
A few. So these are the reason I'm listing these 4 together is that they are more objective. Okay, so sentimental is not objective at all. Sentimental, there's always room for sentimental. I'm not going to make you get rid of everything. But you also aren't allowed to tell me that every one of them is your favorite, right? They just aren't, okay? And if it is a favorite, by all means, keep it, right? And then do something with it. So if you have bins and bins and bins of specials or emotional things like that, elevate them, treat them as treasures, hang them up, do something. I am the least crafty person in this room, I promise you. But I do something with it if it truly is a treasure. Awesome. Bless you. don't just let them languish, right? And I say that, my kids used to say, but they're all my favorites. No, it doesn't work that way. They can't all be your favorites. And maybe they become an exception and you start rotating them. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna keep these because I really do love them, but I don't have room to put all of them out. So I'm gonna have like a rotating stock of treasure. And so every season I'm gonna swap it out. And I have a client, she received a number of things from her uncle who had passed, including silver tea balls. I don't drink tea that way. Silver tea balls. And so what she did is she put them in shadow boxes with like uplights, and there's a little tag on each of them that says where it's from and why it was special, and there's like a little code, you know, and so she knows that, and it's hung up in her kitchen. And it's beautiful. So did she need to keep all of his containers of things? Like some of it is still in the basement, and that's okay. But she actually did something with some of it, and she let some represent all, is a nice way to put it too, right? So we don't have to have all of it out at one time, because then it's no longer special. But thank you for asking the question. Exceptions. Okay, so exceptions, like I said, these are meant to be kind of objective, and emotional stuff is not objective. But this is kind of helping with the not emotional stuff. Emotional stuff is tougher. And if I don't answer a question today to your satisfaction, or you think of them later, just email me. Okay, so if you want to ask me more about specifics or something like that, I'm happy to field that one. And then the fourth purge criteria that is also meant to be objective is shelf life. Yes, things do expire. Okay. Yes, things do expire. So some of those shovels, there was one of them and you would do it and then the handle kept popping off. And it wasn't that the screw had broken, it was that the handle was broken. We're never gonna fix, it's not fixable. Some things are, absolutely. So then we decide, do we want to fix it and take the time, and that's fine, right? Or does it just need to go? Okay, so things really do expire. And I'm not just talking about like, you know, food, or I'm not even going down that path because that's a whole nother conversation. But things do expire to our lives. Like if my baby is 18 and he's the tallest person in the house, right? So if I found any like little kid toys that I wasn't just saving for my niece and nephew who are 7 and 10, they've expired to us, right? So think of that as shelf life as well. So sometimes things expire to us. Okay, I really am. Okay. When will you kick us out?
Well, the library doesn't close until 9 o'clock.
Okay, no, I'm not going home at 9, but if I went a little past 7:30 is what I was angling for there. Okay, all right.
Hey, I'm a librarian. I don't like kicking people out.
Well, thank you for that. And if anybody needs to go, I totally understand that too, but I will go maybe a little over, but not too far. So as the last line, right, is, you know, purge the broken, right? Unless you are a cobbler, purge the shoes, right? Now I say that, and yet the first thing that I will do when winter is over is I will take all of my shoes in to get them shined and repaired at the local shoe place. So like I really do, I try to get every ounce of life out of my things. But I also know that if there's a broken lamp in my basement or my garage, I either need to go get it fixed for Bill the lamp guy. It's on 111. It's in the city. You got to come by me, but he's great. Or I just need to, no, I'm not going to be the one to fix it. I'm either going to get it fixed or I'm going to let it go. Right. So shelf life matters. Absolutely matters. Okay. All right. Cool. So as we purge, we want to remove immediately to our destination. So I actually carry 2 colors of garbage bags with me at all times. Doesn't everybody drive around with 2 colors of garbage bags? A step stool, a drill. Yeah, I have all that. I don't have it with me here. It's in my car. But I always carry, I have rolls of garbage bags in my car, and I use black and I use white. White is great because you can write on it with a Sharpie marker. All right, so if you are going through your stuff and you have destinations, you have sneakers to be donated, you have books to go back to the library, you have, you know, sporting goods items that you want to take to play it against sports because your kids are done with those. Yes, the Klimczak family has made money on that gig along the way, trust me. But it's nice because you can write the name and the destination on a white garbage bag with a Sharpie, all right? So very often, you know, we write that on there, and then when you're cleaning up at the end of your session, you could load those into your car and then drop them off where they need to go, okay? So we want to remove things immediately to their destination. Now the black bag is a black hole, and I don't know if any of you are all space savvy, but a black hole, things get sucked into a black hole and they're never seen again. That is what I want you to think of when it comes to these, okay? Nothing comes back out of a black hole.
Sorry, say that one more time.
Nothing comes out of a black hole. Okay. And you should never organize around other people. Okay. You should not, because and I mean that it abuses trust. Okay. Unless they're 4. Because sometimes things do need to go. Okay. And they're not the favorite.
Interesting.
Okay, but not everybody. And not, like I said, not adults. Do not assume that you're going to organize for somebody else without their permission. It will not end well. I'm serious. I really am. It betrays trust and it's not a good thing. Okay, so just saying. All right. Maybes are tough. It's kind of that emotional question sometimes too. So sometimes we're lukewarm about an item, so maybe we can store it, but maybe we label it and put like an expiration date on it in 6 or 12 months. And if we don't break the tape or open it back up again in 6 to 12 months, we can kind of leave a note to future me to go ahead and get rid of those items if we haven't been missing it between now and then. And then the other one's a closet tip, so we won't do that. Okay, so we have sorted. We have purged. Yay! Purging is the hardest part. We really are almost done. This is a very wordy, it looks better on my laptop when I'm presenting at home. Like I realize just how wordy this is. So after we have sorted and we have purged, the third step in the organizing process is to assign a home. Now, very often our stuff is going right back where it came from. If it's a garage item, probably staying in the garage, right? A basement item is probably going to stay in the basement, and that's okay. But we do want to think about who is going to use those certain areas as we are setting up, assigning a home and containerizing. And those two steps kind of go together for me. So I said here, you know, go with personalities and use what you have. If you have somebody in your house who absolutely needs to see it in front of them, a pegboard is your best friend, right? If you need a way to keep tools safe and not in the hands of small children, a tool chest that you can lock is going to be your best friend, right? So you kind of need to think about who's going to be using the space, who's going to be using the items, and how you would like to set that up going forward, okay? So are you visual or non-visual? You also want to make sure that you store the stuff that you need every day as close as possible. I mentioned at the beginning, I am short. This is not news to anybody. So beachfront property is where I can reach it, right? It's true. So if there's anything that needs to be high up, it's stuff that I'm not going to get at nearly as often. I might need to see it. I know that my patio furniture is in the rafters, but I haven't seen it since October. I know it's there, and it will be awkward to get it down, but I only have to do that once a year, and I only have to put it back once a year. So I don't mind that is all awkward because I don't have to do it very often. If I had to go up there every day to get my car key, like that would be inane, right? So think about that as we're assigning a home and also containerizing our stuff. Store stuff where you need it. So again, filing is for retrieval, not for storage. I have a lot of things that I restock in my kit when I go to my clients' houses, and that all lives on a set of chrome shelves in my garage because it goes right into my car. Like I don't want to bring it to my house and then bring it back out. That would be silly. That's not where I need it. So I store the stuff right there so I could just restock my car. Cabinets on wheels is great for mobility. I have a client who has 4 6 foot tall by about 4 foot wide chrome shelves in her garage. And they are by season. So we have like the summer, the spring, it's kind of crazy, but it's really nice because they're on wheels. So when the season is past, we roll that last season into the back and then we bring the other ones forward. And actually that way, it's kind of like the library stacks, like it doesn't take up nearly as much space and we're always facing the most recent season. So just think about that. If there's things like that that you need to work around, you can absolutely do that. Designate areas for particular activities as you're going through things. And then maybe each family member has their own space. So when my kids were littler, I mentioned I am now the shortest person in my house, but when they were littler, everything was down on their level because we wanted to encourage them to pick up and clean up their stuff themselves. Okay, so as we're assigning a home, like I said, that really blends with containerizing. We also want to have safe storage in the garage. Store heavy items close to the ground. Store heavy items close to the ground. Because we do not want to pull down the heavy items onto our noggins when we are working on something. I actually had a minor concussion for a week last February, because the Eiffel Tower fell on my head at a client's house. And it was really heavy and pointy. So yeah, it was on the top of a bookshelf. That didn't end well. So store heavy items close to the ground. Assume that everything is going to fall. I mean, I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it is true. We need to consider that. And, you know, if we've got people that come in and out that don't know that heavy things are above, if we've got little kids that might be in there, we just need to be really safe. And so again, make sure that gravity is on your side. There's also things that we can do. We can mount shelves or attach shelving units to the wall. Even a basic garage has just exposed, you know, studs, and you can mount things into there and keep it safe. Will there be children or pets in the garage when you're done? You know, watching out for cords for power tools and that kind of stuff. We also want to make sure that we're safe around heat and flame, flammable items. And we also want to make sure that if we have poison products in the attic or the basement or the garage, that it is also safely stored in case anybody other than ourselves is using that. Okay. What should not be stored in the garage, and we will get into the containerizing in just a minute. So anything that you really care about, anything that could be susceptible to bugs or moisture or dust or a car running into it, right? I mean, this is all possible. So photos, books, treasures, fragile items, right? Probably not your best bet in the garage. Oh, anything with glue or wax. Did you know that snow globes explode when they freeze? Note to self. I did not have that happen, but actually, you know what? Our first house, we did have a basement. So we stored all of our Christmas decor up in the attic, and apparently it got really hot in the attic. And so all of our candles melted that year. Like, it was really kind of sad. My brother and sister-in-law moved back to Michigan, and they had a barn on the premises, and they're like, cool, look at all the storage we got. This is great, including their Christmas decor, and all of their snow globes froze and shattered. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So when we're assigning a home, we want to be safe. Which leads us to containerizing. We really are almost done, I promise. So what we want to do when we're thinking of containerizing is we want to make sure that we are fitting the items that we're trying to store, the space that we're using, and who's using it. Okay. So if you need a clear container because you've got little kids and they need to be able to see what's in it, then get your clear container. I totally understand that. You don't want to have a huge container full of tiny things. So if you've got a toolbox, or if you've got like a work, you know, area, you don't ever want to have a whole big container of little tiny things, because it's impossible to retrieve them, right? Clear containers are great, but we do need to have them still well labeled, even if they're clear. So you can use unlikely spaces. I mentioned that our, you know, patio furniture and everything is up in our rafters. There's all kinds of vertical space. I did a really great garage last summer. I did all the installations too. I love it when I get to use my tools. It's so fun. But we actually, it was a pretty tall space and we double stacked. So, where there would have been one tool rack, we actually did 2 tool racks because we could, because it was like an 8 or 10 foot ceiling. I mean, you can use that space. You absolutely can. So, just consider that as you're looking for, unlikely or for likely storage even. I cannot tell you what the best system is. And honestly, like, I love the look of a good garage system, but it can be thousands of dollars and it's not necessary. Okay, so you can get all kinds of cool ideas. Let's see, containerstore.com, Home Depot, like there's so many cool ideas out there. And then just shop around for prices. Honestly, most of my stuff I get at Home Depot or Menards. Not very exciting, but it does the job. And that works. So, when you're looking for spaces to containerize, a garage itself is a container, okay? But also a shelving unit within the garage is a container, or the basement or whatever. So, you know, do you want to allocate your wall space? Do you maybe want a shed to store things? So reserving the garage for the cars, could be a pegboard. It does not have to be complicated. So what is nice too is having adjustable storage, that you can kind of modify as the seasons progress as well. Maybe you need a lockable cabinet for hazardous materials, etc. And again, for safety's sake, anything big that might topple, please just be sure to like anchor that or be safe with that. Okey doke. Finally, the last step of the organizing process is equalizing, which is Julie Morgenstern's fancy word for maintenance. I have a blog article that says I have to organize my garage again. It doesn't stay organized. Sorry. Did I just totally burst all of your bubbles? You know, like it got all quiet now. Everybody's okay. I promise you I'm almost done. Stuff doesn't always stay organized. Okay. Especially in those big project areas that stuff comes and goes from, right? And we've got seasons and we've got people and we've got all this stuff that come and go. So it doesn't always stay. So maintenance is necessary. It's essential, but it's also a whole lot easier than the big project initially. Okay. So yes, I am going to have to spend an hour organizing my garage, hopefully in the next week or so. And do I mind? No, I don't mind. It stayed mostly organized. This is just kind of tweaking, right? So I can't wait to like sweep it out because it's got all the muck from the winter and things like that. And it's putting things away and it's probably going to be a bag of trash and that's okay. But so maintaining is so much easier and so much quicker than the actual big first initial organizing. Okay. So it really is easy. It really is essential. You've already done the hard work. Spend another hour and just tweak it and you're going to get a whole nother summer out of it. Right. So in those big projects, we just need to know that it doesn't always stay organized. And sometimes we need to catch up again, like catch back up. And that's okay. You don't have to necessarily redo all the big work because it's pretty much ready already. So what we can do though, when we do that maintenance is, I mean, I keep talking about my boys, right? So, you know, organizing the garage when they were little versus organizing around it now is vastly different. Maybe I have new hobbies. Maybe I have new things I'm interested in. Maybe the cars are bigger. Maybe the cars are smaller. I don't know. So we sometimes need to take into effect or into consideration if the same people are using it, if we need to kind of tweak things for how we use the space now. Okay. So that's what maintenance can do for us as well. It can give us a chance to go, is it still working? You know, about 95% of it is, but I could really use to put something else over there. Or I'm always reaching for that one item and it's not near me. So let's make it more convenient, right? That's what maintenance can do as well. You get that opportunity to say, is it still working for me? And let's make sure that I can make it work for me as much as I can. Okay. Regularly scheduled purge is really helpful. So, you know, again, doing it with a change of seasons. I find this is a great time. I always get the itch. Like, I can't wait to get outside and I want to get my hands dirty. I want to get all my gardening stuff back out. Like, oh, I can't wait. And so, you know, Maybe it's a change of seasons for you. Maybe it's a particular date on the calendar. I had a friend who used to take the day off on her birthday every year and organize her closets. And it was really just kind of her.
Yeah, that's
Siri again. I know. So she liked it though. It was kind of a way to like check in and get rid of clothes that she didn't like anymore and, you know, like do some things like that. Not on your birthday, day after, day before. But it was a way to just kind of check in on those systems and see if they were still working. So, okay, maybe not, pick a different day, but that's okay. But having that opportunity to kind of see what's working and what's not on a regular basis is a way to keep that maintenance going as well. Okay, and then finally, at the very end of your handout are some books that I may have mentioned. And look at that, you're in a library. Conveniently. So if there are, Peter Walsh, he always had some good ones, and Julie Morgenstern is listed there too. So those are always good resources to have, if you wanted to take a look. You don't have one? Oh, no. Why is it on my hand? Oh. Okay, here's my promise. Drop me an email and I will send it to you. And I'm very sorry that it did not show up on your handout. Sorry about that. It exists, apparently not on your sheet. Sorry about that. Okay. So were there any quick questions?
I'm not sure if you covered the change your thinking on the slide before.
Change your thinking. Okay, so it goes along with the tweaking, like just having an opportunity to think of things differently. So changing your thinking is, before I buy something, am I really ready to commit to that something, right? So I know I have a client, I worked with two young people last week. He's 14 and he was ready to give me his Boba Fett Lego. That is a big deal, right? He's like, that's okay, I have two. I was like, oh, that's nice, honey. It's very nice of him though. But I'm like, no, I'm good. He's like, but don't you want it? I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't need anything more. I am at the point where I have to let something go to let something else in. And so I really need to decide if I'm looking at an item, is it something that I want more than something I already own? So it's just a way to start thinking about it differently. And wow, there's this really cool whatever, but it requires major maintenance, or it requires special oil, or it requires special care or special maintenance. Do I really want to take on that item and all the responsibility for it? Okay, and maybe the answer is yes, go for it. Okay, but that's the way to kind of start to change your thinking is, do I have need it, use it, love it, right? If I'm going to take on this item, is it something that I'm willing to commit to needing and using and loving? And if it's not, look, clutter averted, yay! That's what we're going for too, right? So, and that's a maintenance question that we can ask as we go along. Anybody else?
Are you doing another downsizing?
I am. And I even think one of them is also virtual. I don't think it's here. I think it's in another library, but in the same way that Aurora Public Library doesn't mind if you're not necessarily from here. So if the clipboard made it around and you signed up, I will send out, I send it out every Tuesday and it has all my listings. If you didn't sign up, you don't have to tell me, right? I said, you don't have to tell me, I don't want to know, right? But it's always on my website as well. So I have a presentations page on my website. And so if you click that, it has all my classes coming up. And if it's like a dual, like in person and online or just online, that information will be on there as well.
Okay, thank you.
So sure. And I'll be happy to see all of you, any of you there. So that's kind of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Okay. I'm putting you on the spot.